Hey, thank you for joining us today, friends. We have a really fun episode of the Evolving Adventure. Greggy V sitting in the sunshine for once because it's not snowing. I'm very happy.
Woohoo.
Yeah, you want to subscribe to the Evolving Adventurer podcast on however you're listening to this and check us out as well at the Evolving Adventurer on Instagram and at Cactus Moose is my personal one. And we have Amber joining us from a foreign nation. I'm very excited for this and just pumped to talk to you. So good day.
Hey, Greg. Yeah, I'm excited to be here and didn't realize I was your first international guest. So
Yeah, it's
that's
super
fun.
fun. I'm excited. And you are somewhere. We were just talking before. You did not get your morning surf in yet,
Not yet.
but where are you, and what can you see from your bedroom or your recording area right there?
Oh, yeah, maybe I should flip the screen around. It's pretty nice. I'll leave it to creativity, but I am in a little surfing fishing town called Punta de Mita, Mexico, and which is in Nayarit. It's near Puerto Vallarta. And I have a really nice view right now of two surf breaks that are going off, and I'm kind of watching the lineup, one with each eye here. So it's a really nice spot to check the waves. Kind of a tease though when you're working, you're
We
watching
were going to
everybody.
say,
So
yeah, is this a time you would normally be surfing? You're like, man, I could be number two in line over there, and instead I'm sitting in front of my computer.
yeah, I don't surf as much in town here. I usually go to a few other spots that are about 10 minutes from here. But I like to do dawn patrol and kind of beat the crowd. So I like to get up and try to go for first light. Doesn't always happen, but yeah, that's my favorite.
But
Less wind. Yeah.
yeah, I'm a morning person. I love to be out when it's quiet, watch the sunrise, not have to deal with people, and you get the whole world's coming to
Mm,
life. I dang near touched a deer yesterday, so
really?
I'll send you the video. Yeah, that was did not expect that, but they're very tame out here, so tis good.
Did you
But
see into its soul?
I think that he saw into my soul, and then a second one came up, and I had the same thing. It's like I've had two male deer that I have touched on the same run. This
Wow.
is wild. Yeah. Yeah, first time for everything, so they
Yeah.
say. And for you, you have done so many amazing travel things in your life, and the Evolving Adventure, life's a journey. It's all there. You're in Mexico now. You did not start off in Mexico. Can
No.
you kind of walk us through how that came to be and your interest in travel?
Yeah, well, I'm actually from Anchorage, Alaska, so I guess I like the extremes, right? Extreme heat, extreme cold. I actually don't love extreme cold. Pretty content to skip winter now at this point in my life. But yeah, I did grow up in Anchorage, Alaska, and really the first 18 or 20, well, 20 years of my life, I didn't do a lot of traveling. I did a lot of local adventures in Alaska, and I was a competitive swimmer, so that was pretty much my life for about 16 years. I was on different teams and did a lot of traveling, mostly in the US for that. And then I kind of started to get into running in high school, got into track, cross country a little bit, but swimming was kind of the main sport. So when I got to college, I was mainly focusing on swimming again. And then after that ended, I started doing triathlons. I kind of got a little bit more into the running scene, which was fun, and ended up doing my first marathon when I was 30, actually, in Salt Lake City, Utah, Salt Lake Marathon. And I knew I could run faster than I did on that. And it was actually my nutrition was not dialed in at all on that race. I ended up having to like poop in somebody's front yard. I mean, it was really bad. Like
In
was
Salt Lake. Oh gosh,
added a lot of
wow.
time. So I was kind of like, I trained really hard. I think I could do better. I just got to figure out the race day nutrition piece. And so I ended up doing another marathon a couple months later and qualified for Boston. And then yeah,
Holy.
really got the bug then and was really into it and ended up it was a couple of months before Boston I decided to go on this trip I called 30 retirement. Like, why do we have this
Ooh.
idea of waiting till we're 65 or whatever to retire? So I sold everything, put a couple things in storage, sold most of my stuff, just had an open house, had most of my friends come over and pick out what they wanted, grabbed a backpack, got a one-way ticket to Australia, and then ran around New Zealand as well. And so I was basically down there training, which was a great way to also travel. I mean, I would go on these long runs around like Sydney, Australia, and just see so much of the city at
Yeah.
the same time as I was training for the race. So that was a really fun way to do it until I landed in Indonesia and I was
Oh.
actually attacked by a monkey in
Wait,
Indo.
what?
Yeah, yeah, random part of the story. But it led to me needing I don't believe in this anymore, but at the time I
Mhm.
was told that I really needed to get some rabies vaccines after this monkey attack. And so I ended up getting a series of shots, and of course they have a very strict schedule for that, and you have to do every so many days or whatever. And so I flew back to do the Boston Marathon, and I had to get this rabies vaccine like the day before or 2 days before or something like that, and I'd had 3 or 4 to that point, so I was very, very ill. It was a horrible Boston experience. I mean, Boston is incredible as a whole, but I was, like, puking half the way and just really having, like, muscles seize up, weird things that had never happened before in my life that I assumed was maybe tied to this inflammation from the rabies shots. So, in the
Yeah.
end, yeah, that was probably the end. That was actually the last road marathon I did, but after that, I got into trail running and started doing more of that and ultras and stuff like that. So I definitely have had a chunk of my life where I've been very much an avid runner. I know a lot of your podcast
Yeah.
listeners are into the running scene, so I wanted to touch on that, yeah, because it was so many good memories and life lessons through this process of
Yeah, and congratulations
getting
on
into running that way, you know?
yeah, getting into it so fast, qualifying for Boston and not getting arrested in Salt Lake for public indecent, whatever Utah might say.
Right.
Little
Yeah, I was
strict
lucky on
there.
that one.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Luckily
so
from Alaska, I don't mind, using the bathroom outside. That's not a big thing
yeah.
for me. So I guess I don't have that too much
Yeah, oh,
modesty
no, I mean,
between
that is
growing
the
up as a
major
swimmer and yeah,
yeah, that is the major source of anxiety for a lot of people, and, like, cool, you live in Alaska, like, bears in the backyard growing up and not a big deal.
true. True.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I do stay pretty calm when I run into bears for the most part, but it's always good to be aware.
Yeah. Yeah, pay attention. How did it go training in Australia and then going back to Boston and running in Boston?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was hard to tell because of the whole vaccine thing and what was
Yeah.
happening like right prior, but a lot of the training I did in Australia and New Zealand actually was on trails. And
Ooh,
so I did a backpacking trip across something called the Great Ocean Road. So I was running, but I had a pack on.
yeah,
So a lot of my training was actually with a
yeah,
pack or in kind of like unique situations or on a lot of rugged terrain. It didn't really translate to running on
yeah.
pavement. Mainly, I was in great shape for the race. The problem was my Achilles didn't love the pounding of the pavement. And because I had been training so much on trails prior to Boston, I actually ended up with an Achilles injury, which is why I switched to trail running right after.
Oh, wow. Well, hey, the universe is pointing you in some direction.
Which I'm very yeah, I mean, I'm not a big city person. I like to be out in nature. So trail running just feels more aligned anyways, which was totally fine. And up in Alaska, there's some really incredible trail ultras and a lot of fun races up there. So I was lucky to be a part of that scene for a while.
Yeah. Oh, that's exciting. And when you first mentioned it, was it 30 tirement? Was that the
Yeah,
terminology you used?
yeah.
What is that? I feel like more people need to do what it is, and I don't exactly know what it is yet, but more people need to do
Well, it's the word I made up. I'm happy to start a
it.
trend if it wants to go viral. But yeah, I was just at a point in my life where I was single. I didn't have children and thought, I want to see the world now. I want to, save up money and just be spontaneous. And I like to call myself a sort of a recovering perfectionist with compartmentalized spontaneity. So I can be very spontaneous in many aspects of my life. I'm working on the rest. But
Yeah.
for me, yeah, it was just really empowering to go and to do it alone. To me, I really like to pick at least once a year, even now, some kind of adventure, some kind of international adventure that really pushes me out of my comfort zone where I don't invite anybody. I just go alone because I think that's where the most growth happens and where you learn the most about yourself and have the most incredible stories, meet the most amazing people when you're not kind of in your own little bubble.
Yeah, no, there's so much to be said for travel being the pathway to your soul, like the garden of opportunity, whatever
Mm,
it might be, and how
I
cool to
completely
start off in Alaska. And now, I mean, I think there's 4 countries you've mentioned just in the first few minutes here that you've been. Has the has your life been fairly nomadic since you left Alaska?
Yes, I would say historically, up until now, I've been pretty nomadic. Even within the US, I lived in, I think, 8 different US states, and then I've lived in 3 different countries as well. and have been fortunate to travel a ton. I've traveled to 37 countries now. And oddly enough, I've also moved 37 times in terms of moving into a new house, signing a lease, like doing that whole thing, being there for a while. So I'm very comfortable with, again, going out of my comfort zone, moving to new places where I don't know anybody, starting over. Sometimes I psychoanalyze myself about that. Is that a
Yeah.
good thing that I'm so comfortable with this? But it's also an adventure and I really appreciate it. So,
Oh, yeah, and the only constant in life is change, and you can be, rigid about it or flexible. It would seem like you're growing those new neural pathways and having those new experiences, whether it is moving or whether it is going somewhere by yourself every year. That's a
mhm,
really cool thing as well. So, like, kudos to you for doing it.
yeah. Have you done a lot of solo travel?
Most of my life has been solo travel.
I mean, you get the nomad
It's
thing, right?
yeah, yeah, no, it's a thing,
Speaking
and
each
it's
other's language.
yeah, it's kind of hard to translate it to people that aren't, because at the same time, it's like I'm needing somewhere as an anchor or somewhere to come back to feel like there's a base, I find helps. But then
Mhm,
once I'm on the road, it's like, oh, yeah, cool. I could go anywhere. I could turn left here, turn right there, go to that hot springs. And I feel like it's been more general in my life where when I am traveling somewhere is when I meet people or when I've started fresh
mhm.
as a student here or for a job here or hey, this adventure and I mean you're from Alaska. I moved to the Yukon, didn't know anybody for a summer. And it was,
Wow.
hey, like this is really cool to see the people. But it's I don't know if it is any different, but it feels different to have that energy of like being traveling or showing up somewhere new, not knowing anybody. You get a new perspective on things, but you still have those reference points too. I lived here, I lived there. That's how they did things in Australia. This ranch in Wyoming's where I learned that. And you can like bring stuff more than I'm in the suburb of Seattle and have always been in the suburb of Seattle. And I lived here and I moved one suburb over and mom lives here and my sister lives here. That's great. It's just a different way of being.
Mhm. Yeah, that is so true. And the cultural experiences that you get, just such a big fan of going to a country that's like way out of the comfort zone. That's not even remotely, because I mean, US and Canada, there's a lot of cultural similarities, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Super fun to travel around both of those countries. But I think it's also not the same as going to Southeast Asia or, South America or something. And so the language piece I love too. I speak Spanish and dabbled in a few other languages just a tiny bit, but it really is fun to learn a new language and to push yourself in that way too.
Yeah. Yeah, and how did your language learning come about? Was that, "Hey, I'm gonna prepare for this knowing I'm gonna move here," or, "I'm just gonna move here and figure it out?"
The second. It's kind of thrown well, in all fairness, I did study Spanish in high school, and mostly what I remember is watching Disney movies in Spanish. Shout out to my high school Spanish
Oh,
teacher. But I mean, I
okay.
I really got to Peru. I actually moved to Peru when I was a new graduate out of physical therapy school and was really thrown into it in the sense of, okay, I've really got to learn the language. I'm going to be here a year and this is happening. So
Yeah.
yeah, when I got down to Peru, I was a bit like a deer in the headlights, honestly, because I thought my Spanish I had a little bit, and it turned out it felt kind of like starting over. But I lived with the local family. I didn't have anyone to speak English with for a year, except for one friend that lived 3 hours away, and a handful of people that were kind of passing through. And occasionally I would do as gosh, we didn't even have Zoom back then. It was Skype. Occasionally I do a Skype call with, family in the States or something and speak English, but it was really thrown into
Yeah.
it, which was such an incredible way to learn. I mean, I think that is the way, is to just fully immerse yourself. And I was very lucky that the through the clinic that I worked at, I had some patients, and one of them was very good at English and offered to be my tutor. And so I started once a week having her come over, and she helped me so much in getting a grasp on Spanish, helping with my pronunciation, helping me with career specific words, because at the time I was teaching classes and lectures and all sorts of things in Spanish.
Oh,
So it was like really thrown into it, but in the best way. So yeah, I highly recommend that. I mean, I think it's tough to just jump on an app or study a book or even take an online class, and sometimes you just really need to physically be there to get it.
yeah. I mean, your pronunciation sounds so different from my horrible Spanish pronunciation, the way I try and say things. And Oh my gosh,
Poco
so
a
you're
poco.
yeah. So you're teaching, like, how long has Mexico been, or no, I guess, no, Spanish would be the correct thing if you're in Peru. So did you,
Mhm.
like, Alaska to Peru and then back? Part.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I did go back to the States after I was in Peru. So I was volunteering with a nonprofit. It was a year agreement. Then I did some traveling around, backpacked around South America, and then came back to the States. At any rate, I was back in the US for a while before I ended up coming down to Mexico. I came down here about 5 years ago. So it was 2021 when I moved to Mexico. But fortunately, I had some opportunities to practice Spanish a little bit through different career angles. And so I still felt like I had a little bit of a conversational ability after Peru. Yeah.
Okay. And
So when
what
I
would
came to Mexico, it wasn't like
yeah,
relearning it all over again. It was pretty seamless.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and then your day to day is mostly in Spanish and everything down there, or is it a mix for where you are now?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm so for work, I work with clients on video calls and most of them speak English. And so during the day, I am speaking English quite a bit. But when I go out and about in the community here, my rule with myself is because everybody here also speaks English. It's a very touristy part of Mexico. So the locals
Yeah.
all want to practice their English, so there's that. But, generally it's a if I'm speaking with somebody who's a local, it's always in Spanish. And if we're in a group setting and I have, 50% Mexican friends, 50% gringos. And so if we're in a group setting with a mix, a lot of times the other gringos don't speak Spanish. And so we go back to English. But I really try to be intentional about that and make sure that to me, it's also a thing of respect. And it kind of blows my mind how few people try to learn the basics of languages when they travel. And to me, there's no excuse. You can at least learn a few greetings in any language anyone knows. So easy. You just Google it really quick, write it down, like listen. There's so many apps and resources for pronunciation. And then start, even if it's just how to say, hi, good morning, how are you? I'd like to order one of this, something polite in the language is really important for me. So it wasn't very long ago this past year. And I was there for a whole month. And the first week, I got to drive around with a friend of a friend, and he just showed me a bunch of stuff at the island. I got to meet his family. I mean, it was just an incredible cultural experience. And he taught me a bunch of Singhala, which is a language they speak there. Just little phrases here and there as we were driving around. But by the end of the
Yeah.
month, I feel like I could kind of go back and forth with people a little bit. And a lot of the other tourists would kind of look at me like, "What are you doing? Why are you putting an effort? You're only here for a
Oh,
month. There's only a month visa. What's the point? It's not like you're going to live here." I was like, "Well, that's
yeah.
you're missing the point entirely if that's your attitude about it, because this is a thing of respect, and we're lucky we get to travel here. We're lucky we get to be here. And to me, it's a very much a thing of respect for the local culture and the local people. So that's a big thing that I'm passionate about through all this travel is making sure to really try to understand the local, not just the language, but the culture, and to talk to
Mm.
locals to really get a handle on cultural norms as I'm there as well. So,
Yeah, that's a like you said, that's a great way to connect with people and to feel you go beyond the tourist part at that point. You
mhm,
actually enter the culture and community and have those really cool opportunities more so than, hey, you're getting off the bus and following the group ahead of you and doing stuff. So
mhm,
it's great to hear that that's been your philosophy and how you've done it. And I hope people out there listening too can take this to heart. And when you go somewhere, like,
mhm,
it makes such a huge difference just knowing a handful of words. And at the same
mhm.
time, there's this thing and there's Google Translate and all
Mhm.
kinds of other stuff, but it
Yeah,
does make a difference.
it does, and it blows my mind. There are people I know here who have been living in Mexico for 20 years. They're from Canada or the US, and they still do everything in English. It just blows me away. I mean, to me, it's yeah, just not super respectful. I think, yes, it's effort. Yes, it's harder, perhaps people could say as we age to remember languages or to learn a new language, but I think that's kind of a crutch. I think that's actually kind of bullshit. So
Yeah.
at any age, at any point in life, put some effort in, and even just for the foundations, people really appreciate that. Even if you butcher it, at least you make them laugh. People are
Yeah.
smiling, at least you're trying.
Yeah. And people are generally happy to work with you. And I mean, if they're Germans, they're very happy to tell you how you're not doing it right.
I have
Only
observed
because
that
I
as
worked with a lot of Germans. A lot of Germans.
yeah, yeah. I've got a lot of German friends, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Gosh. Wow. And now that you've been in Mexico for a while, what's some of the magic that you've noticed? And has it been from that? Would you say it's from integrating yourself in the ways you just
Mhm.
mentioned?
Yeah, oh gosh. Mexico magic has been pretty profound for me I reflect on this a lot because I feel like I've sort of undergone gone this spiritual awakening, this career awakening, all these different areas of my life that sort of shifted all at once when I moved here. But at the time, it was 2021, so it was still end of the pandemic vibes going on, and
Yeah.
I actually I really wanted to. I knew I sensed in my life I was dealing with a lot of health struggles, and I sensed that a
Okay.
lot of it was tied to control, and I just needed to surrender and just
Sure.
trust. And so I ended up I pulled out a map of all the places that were like pretty chill about the whole COVID thing. And I just closed my eyes and put my finger on the map and landed in this town, which ended me to Mexico with my finger. And I was like, and I told myself, wherever my finger lands, that's where I'm going to go. As long as it's like close to a place that I can learn how to surf, because I knew at that point that I loved surfing. I wanted to learn how to do it. And so, yeah, I got lucky that I showed up here with a backpack thinking I'd be here for a month and then maybe travel around a little bit. And that was 5 years ago, gosh. But I just fell in love with this community, and it has been so powerful to be here and to really embrace more stillness. I think for me, a lot of healing has come from just being present, being still, and surfing has helped me a lot with that. I'm not saying that running was bad in my life
Yeah.
and it gave me so many lessons, but it was also part of a theme I had with my health about hypervigilance and about sort of this concept of really having to push through with my health. I think that also translated to me with the mileage and with running and being on the schedule. And when I got here and I just got in the ocean and could surf, I was still getting an amazing workout, but it was also like a floating meditation. Surfing teaches you so much about life and so many
Yeah.
analogies we could draw from it, right? Because you're sitting waiting for the waves, depends on so many variables and conditions, and you really do it gives you the opportunity to just let go of a lot of things and surrender and release and just be present and enjoy and connect with nature and get that ion therapy from the ocean and be social. For me it's a very much a social thing, but it's also has the option to kind of paddle away from everybody and have some solitude and sit and float in your own space. And I love that about it. I don't know. Do you know much about human design?
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a manifesting generator, 2, 4, I think are my numbers. So I'm a person that likes to a lot of variety and starting a lot of projects in different angles. But I also have this side of me that's a hermit and the side of me that's super social. And so for me, being here has really been a wonderful thing for both because I have both options. Just like in surfing, I kind of like, can draw on both of those pieces of it. And it's been really powerful for that reason. And just helping me let go of grind culture
Yeah.
and just flow with things more as opposed to wanting to control. Now I'm still working on many of these things. I won't tell you that I have that all figured out yet by any means.
Yeah.
But it's been really powerful, gosh, on so many levels, and just sitting back and being present. And the culture here is very laid back and fun. And it's helped me to shift my relationship with my body and loving myself in different ways and just kind of putting it all out there, literally. I mean, you watch everybody walking around in bikinis. I mean, nobody cares here. It's just such a
Yeah.
different vibe in that perspective to come back to things that have held me back in the past. I worrying what others think, all of these limiting beliefs and things that you can work through. It's been really powerful for that. I started dancing. I got to try,
Yeah.
I got a skateboard
Wow.
for the first time, and started playing on that. I mean, I've
Oh, cool.
been able to integrate a lot more play and a lot of time in nature, which is also really powerful. I love to go to bachata and salsa classes and so many of these things that kind of feed into this idea of just letting go and surrendering and flowing with things has been such a beautiful part of life here.
Dang. That's like a huge human
There's a
growth.
lot.
Human,
There's
that
so
was
much
it's
to
like
the
it's
magic.
an
I don't
entire.
wanna ramble too long, but yeah, there's so
Yeah.
much to
No.
it.
No, no, that's all good. And the culture too, like as you were talking about the dancing, I was just thinking like, oh, there's salsa, there's flamenco, there's all kinds of things. Like it just seems very different than the kind of controlling or rigid nature of so many things
Mhm.
in Canada and or in North America. Yeah, Canada and the US. So like, hey, you
Yeah.
work 8 to 5, you work 9 to 4, whatever it is, and like you need to be here, you need to do that. It's much more like, okay, we'll get to it when we get to it. But that flow seems very
Mhm.
different.
Mhm. Yeah, and along that, I also love ecstatic dance and just moving my body in new ways that I think is extremely powerful for trauma release and for emotional healing as well, and just kind of shedding those layers of not just control, but just perception and yeah, that rigidity, like you said. And dance is such a wonderful tool for that. And
Yeah.
it's also helped me. being here has helped me so much in, and probably this has to do with the stillness, right? But it's helped me so much in tapping more into my intuitive gifts. And I see parallels with that with surfing, with dancing, with so many aspects of culture and life here, and just tapping into more of my innate psi abilities that I believe we all have. Things like
Mhm.
clairvoyance and clairaudience and claircognizance and clairsentience, and having more downloads and having more of that constant spiritual connection and how it's impacted my faith. There's so much there, that's really woken up for me in this setting and has been really healing for me as well. And as somebody, as a woman in my 40s, that I'm still single and haven't done the traditional get a house, have a family, get married, those kinds of things. There's also that angle here, which I think I find more people who are in the same place in life here than I do traditionally when I go back to the US. So
Really? Okay, I'm intrigued now. How do you have any intuitive sense of why that is, or why Mexico, or why now part of your experience?
I mean, I think it depends where you're at in Mexico. It's a huge country for one thing. So
Yeah, fair.
this is a location that's very tourist friendly and attracts a lot of surfers. And so that's probably part of it, is that just the lifestyle here already lends to people being a little bit different than the traditional molt, I guess. That being said, I have a lot of friends who have kids here and have brought their families down, or local friends who have their families here. So that's not, a total generalization, but as a whole, it does seem like that there are more people who have chosen to exit some of the aspects of, say, capitalism, or other factors of the culture that you and I were raised in, and have
Yeah.
found it to be really empowering as well. And so there's always that almost always that commonality, that thing in common when I meet people here, and just being part of community, especially coming out here right after that whole pandemic thing. Like, just having that presence and the social piece of it has been really healing as well.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seems like the more that you've grown and shifted and moved around, and I know for me, like, the more I do that, the easier it gets to just go and be yourself in a group of
Hmm.
people, and you're not worrying or concerned about, like, "Oh, I gotta say the right thing," and, like, "Hey, it's this run group, so I need to have this kinda clothes or that kinda clothes." Just, like, show up and do your thing, and, "Oh, hey, cool. Yeah, that's alright. If it doesn't work, it
Hmm.
doesn't work," and
Yeah, and
there
maybe
you
that's
go.
part of just being in my 40s now too.
Yeah,
You
less
just kind
cares
of
to
give less fucks.
yeah, I was just about to say that, yeah. Yeah, no, it
Yeah.
really is, like, I have friends across the spectrum, and like, Jen came on and talked about HRT, and, like, I'm now in this, like, I don't care. This is what I did when I was 25, like, welcome to my life, don't care. And
Hmm.
it's cool to see that because there are so many, whether they're actual barriers or perceived barriers, that, like, "Oh, must maintain this type of face in this situation and never say your true opinion, just, like, go along," and now people are like, "Well, no, that's dumb. This this rule is stupid. Why is it here? This is dumb." So
Hmm.
it's really cool to see that, and to see people also looking at that at their own lives of, hey, this is, like you mentioned, working on control and things like that. And that's huge because you're just seeing the change. Like, you've got to be pretty motivated, and there's some level of control to get into Boston and all of that training for
Hmm.
anyone out there. But it's very different from, like, sitting out in the ocean and waiting for a wave that may or may not come. And that, to have that mindset to go to it and not be out there having an anxiety or something issue with it's not happening, that's a huge shift. So kudos.
Yeah, it has been so, so powerful. And I used to think that I loved training for races, and maybe some part of me did, but I think it was tied to some of that rigidity that I had and noticed within myself. And so for me now, I like to come up with challenges. I still like to have things like that
Yeah.
to train for or look forward to. But for me, stepping away from actual races and creating my own version of something that challenges me physically and mentally, that pushes me out of my comfort zone, I still love to do that. It just looks different now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, we just talked to Christian. That episode was last week. And yeah, he has some amazing challenges that he does on the anniversary of his mom's passing. So what is your big challenge thing coming up? Or your routine, I guess it were.
Well, okay. So My birthday's in August. Every year I like to do my birthday challenge of some sort, something that, and I traditionally will do it solo, kind of like the solo travel thing. I like to push myself because I think just the process that goes on inside when you're doing something for a long time that's physically challenging, there's something really powerful about that. And also an opportunity to reflect on the past year and kind of where you are and kind of take taps on all that. Anyways, yeah. So every year I like to do something that's different. The rule is it has to be totally different from anything I've ever done
Oh,
so far.
I like it.
So this year I am planning a trip to Madeira, which is an island
Oh,
that's technically part of Portugal, but it's out in the middle of the ocean. And they just reopened this trail. They actually do a race across the island, but I'm going to do the course of the race. So I'm basically going to do the Madeira crossing, which I'm really excited about.
ooh,
And looking forward to that one this year. And I'm not going to run it, I'm just going to hike it.
yeah,
I'm actually hiking it with a friend. So this year it won't be solo. But in the past, I've done more aggressive challenges, so to speak, in terms of mileage or intensity or whether I was running it or surfing or
yeah.
doing something else. But yeah, some of my favorite ones were, I think when I was 7, I did the Imogene Pass run. Have you
Oh,
heard of that
yeah.
one? That's
Yes, I
from
have. It's
Erie to Telluride
beautiful.
in Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's 17 miles, but you climb a ton of elevation. You go up to 13,000 feet and it is just stunning. If you've never done that trail, have you ever been on that one?
I have not. I actually was talking to a friend that's going there for their anniversary.
Oh, no way.
Like, at some point in the next month, they're going, but I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah, I haven't ever been I've never been to Ouray. I've been to
Oh,
Silverton on their train, but I've never been to
it's so
Ouray." So
beautiful. And great
it's
hot springs there too.
yes, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
actually on a quest for hot springs starting today.
Yeah.
So,
So you can kind of get both there. Yeah, actually I did this crossing. Ended up adding on some miles because I missed a turn. And so it's a
it
little longer
happens.
than I planned.
It
But
happens.
at the end we went and soaked in the hot springs. It was like the best day.
Oh,
And then, other years have been equally memorable. Actually, I've done some, I liked, for a while I was doing the number I was turning was sort of part of the
yeah,
challenge. So
okay.
for 38th birthday, did 38 miles in Vermont, a duathlon of running and biking.
Cool.
39 was all running. It was on trails in Glacier National Park, which was incredible. I just
Wow.
picked all the trails that I wanted to do and just kind of linked some together. Had some rest breaks, of course,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
that was stunning. That was actually one of the most memorable. When I turned 40, I decided to surf 40 waves in a row, which, to be honest, was not nearly as challenging as the running ones, because
Okay.
uh, you know, for me, 40 waves isn't too crazy. It was a couple of hours, not a whole day thing. And then let's see, when I turned 41, I did a decathlon, and so I did 10 sports, and each sport was 41 minutes long. So that was really
Oh,
cool.
cool.
These are all things, it's not like I was part of a group.
Yeah.
I was just doing it
Yeah, no,
for
that so
me.
what did you do? Like, surfed, skateboarded, danced, ran, hiked?
Yeah, I think I lifted weights. I think yoga was in there. Did surf skating, trail running,
What is
climbed a
surf
local
skating?
mountain here. Oh, I went paddleboarding. And actually, um, I didn't factor in the wind great that day. And so instead of it being 41 minutes, it was like a 2 hour sup coming back in a headwind. So that was a little miscalculation on
Gosh.
my side. Oh, I swam for 41 minutes. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
10 of my favorite sports. It was
Okay.
awesome.
What is surf skating? That sounds interesting.
Oh, so there's special surfboards that have just kind of different trucks and stuff that move more
Yeah.
like the feeling of carving on a surfboard. And so it's
Okay.
just a special type of skateboard. Yeah, where you
Okay.
practice some maneuvers and stuff. And yeah.
Oh.
So
Are
my
they those
neighbors
like
thought I was crazy because I was up on the roof. There's really no good place to skate right in this little town. And so the only
yeah.
place that's not super like, jagged and falling was the roof of my old apartment. So I was up
Oh,
there at like 5 a.m. because I was like, I got to start
yeah.
this decathlon early. Let's start with
Yeah.
the skateboard.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that was a memorable one. That was really fun. It was also my birthday's in August and it was
Yeah.
extremely hot and humid. So that was interesting. But I had a blast. And then last year I did a surf boat in the Maldives where we lived on the boat for 8 days,
Oh,
and it was one of the best experiences of my life, to be honest. It was just incredible on all levels. So Yeah, every year's been a little different. Sometimes it's more surfing focused versus trails, but I like that. I like to really push myself to that place, as most runners probably can relate to, of
Yeah.
just being so utterly exhausted, but in a blissful state.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting, and I'm super inspired now to do something for my birthday that's anywhere near that level other than things. So thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what would your birthday challenge be?
I don't know. That'd be a good thing. My mind immediately goes to running. It's in February, so it really depends
Mhm.
on where I am in the world for what's possible. It tended to be
Mhm.
skiing, something related to skiing growing up, or take the day off work and go ski.
Uh-huh.
And then it just kind of morphed. And then being a student, it was like, well, I don't have money to go anywhere, so I'll go to the gym for a really long time.
Mhm.
But yeah, I've never really done something challenging on my birthday for my birthday.
Mhm.
I guess, yeah, I mean, there is a race that happens around my birthday every year that I've already
Mhm.
done it. So it'd be more like, hey, I'm gonna go find an adventure somewhere and go. I love the sunshine, so it'd have to be something where I'm out in the sun all day. But yeah, I
Mhm.
can see like a self-made duathlon with my bike and running,
Yeah.
or hiking a bunch of peaks, or hiking
Mhm.
40. Well, I don't know if I'd get 40 some odd thousand feet of vert in a day, but I could try. I don't want it on a
That
stair mill. That would be way too
that would
long
be
and
extreme.
inside. But yeah,
Yeah.
something outside
Eating
that's fun
nature
and
is always
unique. Yeah,
nice. Yeah, and I think sometimes too for ideas, I'll just look at, oh, there's this race I heard about that I always like wanted to do in the past, or this route looks cool, or there's this through hiking trail or whatever. I'm gonna go there not the day of the race, but I'm just gonna go do it. I think that's a
yeah,
fun way to get ideas.
yeah.
So
The Madeira crossing looks really cool. I don't know
mhm,
if I'll make it out there for my birthday, but it does look really cool. So yeah,
mhm.
there's ideas fostering now. So, and if anyone out there
Hey,
listening
well
has
get back
ideas
to me. I'm
too,
excited to hear what
it'll-
you choose.
yeah, yeah. If anyone out there has ideas too, pass them along. I can see. I have time to plan it out. That's the
You
nice
do
part.
have some
There's
time.
like, yeah, like
Big
eight
4-0,
eight
huh?
months. So no, it's more than that, but we'll keep the number secret. I guess you can look on Ultra Sign Up if you need to know.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. But no, so with all of these things, like you must have a whole bunch of crazy travel stories that you learned something cool or had a fun thing. Like what was Pirates of the Caribbean popped into my head. What was your Barbados deal?
Oh, yeah, Barbados. That was a cool trip. Yeah, this is a good example of spontaneity
Yeah.
because I'd never really Barbados is a surf destination, but it wasn't on my radar,
Huh.
really. Maybe 3, I think it was just 3 years ago when I went. But I was on some online dating apps and I met this guy and we went on one date, went to dinner, and actually his buddy was there, so it was the 3 of us. And like didn't hit it off in the sense of like some crazy chemistry, but we're like, oh yeah, he's a surfer too, cool. Like it's a good friend to have.
Yeah.
He got back to New York where he lived, and he's like, hey, let's meet up again. Let's go on a second date. Why don't you meet me in where were they going? Morocco? I think they were going to Morocco that year. And it was like a month away. And I was like, I got, it was around the holidays. So I said no. But he
Yeah.
kept persisting and he's like, well, our next trip is in Barbados. Why don't you come there instead? And I was like, okay, could be cool. Yeah. So I ended up waiting till last minute because didn't really know this guy, but I was like, all right, I
Yeah.
guess I'll go to Barbados. Why not? And
Yeah.
blocked off work and booked all the stuff. And he had sent me where they were staying, and I got an Airbnb right nearby and set it all up. And then messaged him telling him like that I had set it up, and we've been going back and forth about this. And then the day or two before the trip, he bailed. This guy was like, actually, and he didn't really seem to have a good reason. I'm sure there was good reason. I'm sure something happened. But at any rate,
Uh-huh.
he bailed on the trip. But I was like, you know what? Screw it. I already paid. Like I got the non-refundable stuff because it's so last minute.
Yeah.
And I'm just gonna go over there, and I'm sure I'll meet people, and it'll be fine. And I ended up going over to Barbados and met up. He's like, I'll put you in contact with some of my friends over there that were also going on this trip,
Yeah.
and ended up having one of the best experiences of my life. Met this group of a dozen of his friends, hung out with his friends, went all over the island with them, went surfing with them, just like spent the whole trip with his friends basically. And they ended up becoming friends for life. A lot of them, I don't know, maybe done 6 or 8 trips now. Since then, they fly to Mexico to visit every year. And I've been to
Wow.
visit them. And it ended up turning into this really awesome friend story. So I tell people, dating apps
Yeah.
aren't all bad. Sometimes good things can come out of it.
Yeah, the good things can come out of it. That's wild. I have not flown across the world for a possible nor been canceled, so first time for everything.
Yeah, yeah. It was a good lesson and a good reminder that you it's all about how you look at things too. You know, at first I was
Yeah.
kind of annoyed with him. It's like, dude, what? I
Yeah.
was like, actually, no, this could be a great opportunity. This will be fun anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm also so comfortable with solo travel that I would have done a trip like that anyways. So I guess it wasn't that out of my comfort zone, but it was a good experience and just so grateful to have connected with those friends.
Yeah, you never know where a question goes or anything. So I mean, that's inspiring and courageous and bold that you did that as a solo female traveler as well for all that. Like, I guess, what are some of the safety things you think about, and what are some of the
Mm.
wild things that have happened when you've been out traveling on your own?
Oh, I've got some stories.
Yeah,
I got some stories about that one for sure. Maybe need to put some trigger warnings in here though. No,
no.
unfortunately, I've been feel that I've up until now had so much divine protection because I don't consider myself to be super super street smart.
Okay.
But I have learned a lot through travel.
Yeah.
And I have all sorts of stuff happen. I mean, the more benign things were my first international trip with friends when I was 20. We went to Europe and we were actually on this overnight train. And this
Okay.
guy came in and he sprayed something and knocked us all out, some kind of chemical drug. I don't know. So we were all drugged and he stole everything. I mean, passport, everything was gone, even my glasses. It was
Oh,
crazy. Yeah.
jeez.
And so we woke up in the next day, sun shining through the train. This woman was shaking me, saying stuff in, I think in French, because we weren't even in Italy anymore. We had gone
Yeah.
to another country through the train and missed our stop and all of that. And she was like, yeah, you have to get off and go to the police station and file a report. Everybody was robbed on this train. And so, anyways, we went and did that. And that turned into a whole saga that it was a couple of weeks of additional adventures before we kind of got things sorted. But yeah, that was one that comes to mind certainly. Although when you're trying to be street smart, there's only so much you can do if somebody comes in and drugs everybody. you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I think that was unlucky, wrong place at the wrong time, um, and yeah, not I even had one of those like silly money belts on with the passport. I mean, everything was
Yeah.
taken. So
Dang.
yeah, but in other ways, there's been other things that have happened that I think it just depends on the place in the world. And it's just good to like meet locals, like I said, and understand what are some of the considerations, things to be aware of. For example, in Peru, you didn't want to get into a taxi when I was living there. Now it's been a while and I don't want to paint a negative picture about Peru because it's one of my favorite places in the world. But there are some things to be aware of safety wise as a solo female traveler, especially. And
Yeah.
one of them that I quickly learned from the locals was not to take a taxi alone because they often kidnap people or take you to the ATM at gunpoint or things like that. And so
Yeah.
you always want to take public transit in Peru, whereas in other countries I've traveled in Latin America, it's the opposite. Like
Oh,
you're safer in a taxi than a public transit option. So again, just kind of knowing, talking to locals, getting a good feel for those kinds of things to help you make those decisions goes a long way. And I think that's important. But yeah, the stories, probably the craziest things that happened to me were in Peru. And it was partially because I was there for so long. I was there for an entire year and I was living in
yeah.
one of the poorest and most dangerous cities in South America at the time. And so, yeah, there was a lot that went with that in terms of extortionism and how the thugs in the neighborhood would target families and blow up their homes and things like that happened around me while I was there.
Jeez.
People I knew were kidnapped while I was there, unfortunately escaped, but they were kidnapped in taxis and in a shared taxi, and somebody was shot in the face for their cell phone. Like those kinds of things still happen. And it's really unfortunate. And just to be aware,
Dang.
like I didn't leave the house. I never took my cell phone anywhere when I lived there.
Ugh.
I took just enough nuevos soles, which is a currency in Peru, to
Okay.
pay for the
Yeah.
bus. It was like, don't have a purse on you, don't have anything that makes you a target. So there were certain things there. Now, this isn't every part of Peru. This is, again,
Yeah.
an area that I was working as a volunteer that was not the tourist path, right? But certainly good to be aware of those kinds of things. And I did have an experience where I was actually kidnapped in Peru and locked into a man's home for a little while and managed to escape. as well. And so, yeah, there's a lot there, but it also it taught me so much, and faith for me is very important. And in that moment, that was all God, because I was able to escape without any harm coming to me from that situation.
Mhm.
Just by hearing things intuitively, hearing words, hearing instructions of what to do to get out of the situation. So
Oh,
I just circle back to that so much. And as my intuition is feeling more enhanced just through this awakening process of just how connected we all are, and how powerful that is for us.
yeah. That just like spidey tingles as you said that of how cool that is that that's how you got out of that situation.
Hmm. Yeah, and
Eh,
it was very specific instructions that did not make sense to me at all, given what was going on in terms of play along with the
okay.
situation, and which enabled me to get closer to the front door, which enabled me to get closer to his ring of keys and to actually grab that. And then he had this huge ring
Yeah.
of keys, and somehow I got the right one in the lock, and was able to run. Even though he had grabbed me, I was able to get
Yeah.
away.
Holy cow.
Yeah, it was
That's
pretty wild.
scary, but you're free now. Like, holy
Yeah,
cow.
yeah. It was definitely, an experience with somebody who I had known too. It wasn't a
Oh,
stranger. And, you know, the local family that I was living with said, again, culturally, the context, right? And in Peru, you really spend time getting to know people well before you ever go into their home. And in that culture, it's very different from our culture.
interesting.
Mm.
Wow. Thank you. I'm learning all kinds of stuff just from your one story. Yeah, sure. Come on in. Like, yeah, so different. So it's cool that you have
Hmm.
this background in traveling and experiencing stuff to have those references. Like my intuition be like, yeah, cool. We're going for dinner. Oh crap.
Right. Well, even here, the culture's so different, right? In Mexico, it's constantly meeting new people and getting invited to go do stuff and flowing with the day. And a lot of times I just leave my cell phone at home and I'll go surf, and I'll run into people and they'll say, "Hey, do you want to go pick some mangoes over here? Do you want to go to this beach for sunset? Do you want to go get tacos here?" And you just sort of roll with it, you know? So
Yeah.
there is a lot more lightness and spontaneity in this culture. And part of that is probably just also being in a tourist area of kind of the island vibes, even though it's not an island, kind of the surfer vibes here, as opposed to other areas, even within Mexico, where I'm sure there's more caution and more hardship.
Yeah. Wowzer. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. It's
Yeah, yeah, it's been
this.
interesting. But I mean, every place has their stuff. A couple months ago
Oh, yeah.
here, the whole cartel thing. I don't know if you saw that on the news, but they were burning cars and shooting and some other things happening in Puerto Vallarta. The whole city was we were all on lockdown for a couple of days, and there was a lot of fake news circulating and a lot of incorrect
Mhm.
stuff going on in the media about what was happening here. But you know, anytime you travel, it's important to be aware of that angle as well as just you just got to roll with it. I had a friend visiting that day, and we were supposed to go on this hike, and I just had this gut feeling not to go, and that we would have been driving right through the area where all of that started right at the same time.
Oh
And so just,
gosh.
again, listening to your intuition and then pivoting.
Yeah.
My friend who was visiting, we just did something else for a few days, and till it
Yeah.
passed.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, kudos to you
well, I
for
mean, we were on lockdown,
yeah.
so it wasn't that exciting.
Oh,
But after that passed,
how many push-ups can you do? How many push-ups can you do?
yeah, she's a rad woman. She's a friend from Alaska who is in her 80s. So she's like 83 or
Oh,
84. And she just like had this book about bridge. She's like, "I'm going to read my bridge book. This is great. We'll just have a little staycation." So it
yeah.
worked.
Well, yeah, you could always make do, but they
Yeah.
have you had
That is
any
somebody I think you should interview on this podcast, actually.
oh,
If
yeah,
you want
what's
to
her
meet
name?
Helen, Helen
Helen.
is still doing how many marathons and triathlons has she done?
Oh,
She's in
at
her 80s and she's
83.
done over 100 of these big endurance races. She's had
Dang.
joint replacements without anesthesia. Just
Yikes.
she's a force to be reckoned with. This woman and the most amazing, sweet, humble person you'll meet. So yeah, got another
Yeah,
person for you to
Helen.
have on
Oh,
your show.
okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And I mean, you grew up in Alaska, you're in Mexico, you've gone all over. Have you had any of the fun nature things that you've battled or not battled, but that yeah, you've been privy to, like avalanche experiences or I was mine. I've been through lightning storms and blizzards and whatnot, but yeah,
Mhm.
any natural disasters or natural hazards that you've encountered on your travels?
Gosh. Well, I was in a big earthquake in Puerto Rico one time, and that was kind of trippy. But in terms of other stuff, I would say, well, actually, yeah, I do have a lot. Think of more
Yeah.
stories now. Yeah, one time we were
Yeah.
out here surfing actually, and there had been a tsunami warning that we weren't aware of because we went at dawn, and so before we, anybody's seen the news or whatever, we got dropped off by a boat at the surf spot, and we're
Yeah.
sitting out there, and all of a sudden the water sucks out and you can see all the rocks, and we get sucked out to sea basically, and these massive rollers start coming in, these humongous waves, I mean, like the size of buildings, like just massive massive waves start coming through, but they were soft, they weren't breaking, but they were still kind of like, wow, scary but also cool, so we're like,
Yeah.
okay, there's got to be some kind of tsunami warning, something's happening, we probably should get out of here, but we were just waiting for our boat guy to come back.
Yeah.
I think he had actually fallen asleep or taken a nap and he was late. But anyways, many hours later, he did come back and get us and found us. But yeah, that was kind of trippy. So yeah, I guess I've been on the ocean side of the whole tsunami warning thing. There wasn't a massive one that hit this town, thankfully, but there was a lot of damage from
Yeah.
the shore break that came from that. And what
Wow.
else? Yeah, I've ran an ultra through a blizzard once, and that was pretty gnarly.
Oh, which one was
That was in
that?
Alaska.
Alaska?
What's
Okay.
that?
I was just about to say, was it in Alaska?
Yes. Yeah. Called Kasugi Ridge, and it's a really incredible trail. I highly recommend people go check out the trail just to hike or run or perhaps the race. I think they changed it at that point. It was in the fall, and after this happened, this
Oh,
blizzard,
yeah.
the race organizers moved it to June, I think. They're like,
Yeah.
"I'm not doing that again." But essentially, you're on this trail, and there's only one spot on this. I think it was a 50 or 60K ish, but there's only one spot on this trail to get off. Like you're in the mountains, really remote, and to get off, you have to kind of bushwhack down this trail to the highway. I mean, it's not like easy access, right? So you have this all these Alaska races. You show up to the pre-race briefings, and you got to have all your survival, your stuff with you, right? You got to be self-sustaining, like have all the right stuff in your pack. So they check all of that. But with this one, I think that there were trying to remember how many of us finished. Less than 40 people finished this one. It was, you know, most people got off at the halfway mark, which I probably in hindsight should have done, but I'm a little
Yeah.
bit stubborn. So yeah, we started running. The crazy thing was it was it was blowing so hard, like it was like sideways snow, blizzard conditions, whiteout kind of conditions. And even with the headlamp and everything, you just really, because you start in the dark, you really couldn't
Yeah.
see. We started out in the rain, and then you climb, and so you're just in a blizzard. And there were these cairns marking the trail, but you couldn't even see that. I mean, you couldn't even see the footstep of the person in front of you to know
Oh,
where the trail was. So I would just run into like a lake or run into like
yeah.
random terrain because you just couldn't see anything. So I was
Jeez.
drenched head to toe. And I had a buddy who was we were running together for a while. And then a couple miles before the halfway mark, he kind of got quiet. We got to the halfway mark, kept past it, started
Mhm.
going down this section that was kind of a descent. And I was like, I'm just going to wait for him, like, because I don't know the trail. I've only done half of this, so I don't know what the
Yeah.
second half looks like and what I'm looking for out here. I don't want to get lost. I
Yeah.
waited and waited and waited. I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. He just didn't show up. So I was like, I don't know what happened to him. I hope I'm still on the right. Then I start getting in my head. I'm like, am I still on the right
Yeah.
trail? Am I off trail? And, but it turns out he had gotten off at the halfway thing and he just didn't tell me he was going to do that. He just
Oh,
bailed on the race. And so I was waiting for him, and luckily he was okay, but he didn't finish. And so I kept going down, and I did find an area that was more of a clear trail, and it had all these planks over rivers that you would run across as part
mhm.
of the race. But they had, they were frozen and slippery. And so on one of them, I slipped and I actually like did the splits over this log, this plank, and then I fell on my head
Oh,
like into the river.
ow.
I mean, I was drenched. I was definitely hypothermic. It was rough. But at the end, I think I did a couple extra miles getting lost, but I did finish. And when you finish this race and you come down,
Yeah.
you basically finish in this campground, and it's really anticlimactic. Like there's this one guy all bundled up, and he's got like a little stopwatch, right? And like nobody's cheering. There's literally that is the finish line. You just get dropped into this
Yeah.
campsite, and he just clicks, and he's like, congratulations, you're done. And then you run over to the fire and you huddle and you try to get warm. And I swear
Yeah.
it took me like 3 days to get warm again after that one. It was brutal.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Yeah. It's kind of like
congratulations.
surfing. I've surfed a
Yeah.
few times in Alaska. It's type 2
Yeah.
fun. You glad you did it,
Yeah.
like to say you did it, but you're also kind of hypothermic for a few days after.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a little kudos for finishing. That sounds like quite the I just have a visual of you like splits and then falling into that just doesn't sound fun.
Oh my god.
It
I mean, once I like realized I was gonna be okay, it was pretty funny. Like I'm wish somebody had a camera for that one, but
Yeah.
I was just out there in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, it was intense. I think that was probably my most survival esque trail race experience for sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Kudos for you, and you have learned. Gosh, just thinking of all the things you've done and traveled and raced and surfed and everything. Like, are there any big? I don't even know if a top three is possible for favorite places. And as a follow up, like for life lessons you've learned or wisdom you've had, and also want to acknowledge you're doing this as a mostly a solo female traveler. So
Mm,
that's brave, bold, courageous, everything,
thank you.
inspiring.
Yeah, it's such a gift. I'm so lucky to be able to do that. Really, it is a huge gift. But yeah, oh man, there's the top three. It's hard because my brain wants to, set up categories. It's like, well, top 3 places I've lived, top 3 places
Yeah.
I've surfed, top 3 places for culture, top 3 places for running races, top 3 places for hiking or through hiking. So my brain kind of wants to map that out more because it's really hard to pick favorites.
Yeah.
But and I want to ask you this question too.
Yeah.
But I guess my answer to that would be for culture in the whole experience, Indonesia, Guatemala, and Sri Lanka actually stand out.
Okay.
And Guatemala actually, there's some incredible volcanoes you can hike that are active. They're actively erupting like while you're doing these hikes and staying in huts. And highly recommend. Guatemala is, I think, a gem that a lot of people don't know about, but
Mhm.
culturally, just an incredible place. Nature wise, it's amazing. So
Yeah.
yeah, Indo. I mean, just it's all amazing. It's really hard to pick. But for surfing, I would say the best waves I've had were in the Maldives, as I mentioned, that trip, that boat trip.
Yeah.
El Salvador has amazing waves, very
Oh,
consistent, big size, great for shortboard. And then Morocco, actually Morocco for longboarding. There was this place we went to, Imsoin, and you pick up the wave and you ride it. I mean, it's such a long ride. It's like a 20-minute walk back to where you get back in the water with your board after you finish the wave. I mean, it's like a really long, you
holy.
basically go like a few beaches over on this wave. At least when I was there, it was
Wow.
firing. I mean, it was some of those waves were double overhead and oh, it was so fun. So yeah, those are probably my top recent destinations. Living in Peru stands out
Yeah.
because that was such a rich cultural experience for an entire year that it's hard to top that experience on so many levels. And then I don't know, I think of the all of the trails and the times when I was really focusing on running and how much adventure travel that brought me as well with
Yeah.
just planning things like trying to get permits for Havasupai and doing that.
Yeah.
That was really incredible in Arizona or the Nepali coast of Hawaii. That blew me away. That was such an incredible, and we actually did run some of that. At the time, I was dating a guy who was a runner, and we ended up, I think, running in most of that trail. Or in Colombia, there's this trail called the Lost City Trek that
Oh,
you hike to, and you just going through the jungle for several days, sleeping in hammocks, and then you end up at this hidden jungle city. Pretty amazing. Australia also stands out. I did a hike there called the Great Ocean Road that was really beautiful. So
yeah.
yeah, it's hard.
Okay.
It's really hard to pick.
Yeah.
And the more I
Yeah.
talk about travel, the more I want
Yeah.
to plan more travel.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not at all sitting here making mental notes of things you meant.
Yeah, yeah. If you're looking for some good like hiking or trails that you could potentially do, more like ultra distance running on, I've got lots of ideas for that. But
Oh,
what would you
yeah.
say? What's been in your top
Man.
places that you've ever visited?
Places ever visited. Drive wise, Highway 12 in Utah between
Mm,
Boulder and Escalante. I'm blanking on what town is further east of Escalante. It's right off Hole in the Rock Road, back when the pioneers hand dug a way to cross the Colorado.
mhm.
It was magical. I did a 14-day survival course out there, so it will
Wow,
always have a special place
cool.
in my heart of like just hiking through, like, bushwhacking through the moonscape out there, and
Mhm,
navigating on your own, sleeping in like a wool blanket. There was no sleeping bags. That was really
mhm,
powerful, and then just to drive through it is really cool too. I just have a really deep energetic connection to
mm,
there and that whole red rock landscape. I mean, it's four corners, but it goes into Montana, it goes into Wyoming, so anywhere there feels very home,
mhm.
and
There's
not
something
even.
so spiritual about that
Yeah,
terrain
yeah,
and just being out there, you just feel it. It's
Yeah,
It's
it's
really
hard to put
powerful.
into words, but just to go there and just to randomly pick, "Oh, I'm gonna go on this trail and be hiking along," and I just happen to I look up and my eye immediately catches the pictograph that's 200 feet up. I'm like, there's an entire cliffside, and I looked exactly where it is.
Wow.
So that whole area is really cool.
Mhm.
Where else?
Was that by the Wedge? There's a spot called the Wedge
The
over there.
Wedge, not that I remember. I know Molly's Nipple is out there, and oh no, what is hold on, no, there is. I ended up out there one year and I was camping by myself and I met a German couple on a trail run. I cannot see the name of it. It's on the south side of what is the little tiny park? Not Cedar Breaks. It's like by Hanksville. I have to pull this up on the map.
Hmm. Yeah, my brain's trying to go I used to live in
It's
Utah for a while and a lot of
uh,
adventures out there. Trying to remember the names of all these spots.
yeah, it's near Hanksville because Hanks it's stands.
Maybe we
And
shouldn't give
Hanks
away
you
all our
forget.
secrets
Uh,
though.
yeah, okay, can't
We
give away
shouldn't give
all of them.
exact locations.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Oh,
everybody
what
gets
was
to
it?
Moab, right? Everybody knows about
There is.
Moab, like
Yeah,
secrets out about Moab, but I feel like
yeah,
Utah has some amazing, amazing terrain
so
and gems like that too.
yes. Capitol Reef is the name of the park.
Yes.
Capitol
Okay,
Reef,
yeah.
and I haven't really done I drove you drive through it on the highway, so that was cool to go through. I think I stopped and did a hike and looked at there was a farm field or something.
Mhm.
But there's all these cool places. When you get into the backcountry and, like, really far in or some of the dirt roads, that's where I was. I picked a random dirt road. I wanted to go camp. I was like, "Oh, there's this beautiful spot," and, like, of course, there's a camper van that's there, and they've got a fire already. I was like, "Damn it." So, I picked a nondescript spot, and I did a little fire, and I think I slept naked on the ground that night just to be, like, fully grounded and everything, and then I got up,
Mhm.
"Okay, this says, such and such arch 3 miles away, and I had just started trail running again. That seems like a reasonable distance to go, so I start my run, and, like, 2 minutes later, this van goes by and stops. It's the Germans that were there, but we ended up doing the run together, and then they were flying back to Vegas, or then drive back to Vegas to fly back the next day, and they ended up giving me most of the stuff they didn't want. They're like, "You need frying pans, you need this, you need that. What am I gonna do with it?" So I took it.
Mhm.
Long story less long, I went down to Mancos, Colorado the next night, and I had heard about some mountain bike trails out there, and I was like, "You can run on mountain bike trails?" I did not know this until 2019. So, I parked, I did my run, I came back, and this dog found me, and I was, "Oh, there's the dog owner." There was a woman in a Subaru, and I walked up and started talking to her, and she was on a road trip as well. "I'd really need whatever it was, a frying pan." So I was like, "Well, do you want one?" She's like, "What?" These German people gave me all of this stuff, and
Wow.
I was gonna donate it. I just haven't driven by anyone to donate yet. So she got most of that stuff,
Oh, the
and it was one of those
synchronicities.
yeah,
I love
full
it.
circle moments. She's like, "Oh, I'm,
Yeah.
like, down to my last money to get back home." And I was like, "Cool, have this." I bought her a cider somewhere, and we went. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, that whole area. Australia
Mhm.
was cool going to mid the Red Center and just
Okay.
hanging out in Alice Springs for a week and
Wow.
reading the guidebooks that had said, "Hey, you don't wanna cross the" I think it's the Todd River, whatever, "Don't cross the river at night because it's dangerous." "Alright, let's go see what's down there," and there were some drunk people passed out in the dry riverbed. Is this why nobody's but, I mean, I grew up in Vancouver. You go to the downtown east side and homeless people overdose all day long. I drove circles and watched this happen, and the morgue shows up. I just have a different perspective on what is or isn't danger.
Mhm.
I wouldn't know other things, so it was really cool to go and see and again, to feel the energy of Australia and go and see Uluru and
I bet.
see
Wow.
some of the sacred sites that were there, and it surprised me, but Darwin was one of my favorite places. I just happened to go because I wanted to go see where they filmed Crocodile Dundee, and they filmed it way up north. So I flew there and I waiting for my tour, and I was on a very small tour, and I just one of those weird things of like, "We are going to go to 5 swimming holes today." "Okay." "We are going to load up and go." "Okay." We get to the swimming hole, and apparently I'm the only one that planned by actually wearing my board shorts, so I had these beautiful places to myself for half of the time we were there, where everyone else
Wow.
went and got organized, waited for the change room, wait and did their thing, and I
Mhm.
was like, "I'm going swimming." So, yeah, just have some of these really cool and I don't know, this is man. more than 10 years ago now. Are they the same? I don't know. It's got busy with tourism. Everybody kind of found everything after COVID, in COVID. So, but to go at that time was really cool. And then to spend a week on the East Coast out in Byron Bay and know, wow, I would not have left there had I been there young enough to get a working holiday visa.
Mhm.
It just felt good. I tried
Wow.
surf. I think I rented a surfboard for 3 days for $35, and I stayed in a hostel that was right across the street from the beach. It was north of town, so I could walk a mile or 2 on the beach to go to town and hang out, or I could just be out there, and then the nude beach was there as well. I got my full body tan. This is amazing.
What more do you need?
Yeah, I can go surfing, and the fruit was good, and people were friendly, and I was staying in a
Mhm.
hostel. I met so many cool people. No, it was a perfect place to be with just the synchronicities and the people that showed up. And the woman who had the bunk below me in the hostel had the ancient secret of the flower of life and was reading it. And I'm like, wow, this is just
Mhm.
so many random coincidences.
Yeah.
It's that aspect of travel for me was, wow, just start moving and then somebody shows up and it's not
Mhm.
everywhere and it's probably not where you might expect it to be, but you meet someone or hear about a place
Yeah.
and it goes. So yeah, it's inspiring to hear and see and do and know, wow, at some point soon you might be on the road traveling again or looking for somewhere. I will be on the road again traveling, looking for
Mhm.
somewhere and it will show up, but it's different than, sitting working the corporate job and I have my 1 week in Mexico, we're going to
Mm.
Cancun and we're gonna drink our faces off. That's not me.
Right?
I'm here for something else.
Exactly. Exactly. I love that. Mm.
Yeah, it's cool to hear your story too of having done that and seeing where you are now. And do you have any ideas or intuitive hits on what's next? Where's
Mhm.
next for anything?
Gosh, I am not entirely sure on that. Yeah, I'm still feeling it out. I'm excited to go see family in Alaska this summer and do a little bit of travel with the Madeira trip and some of Europe, and still sorting out the rest. Just gonna see where it takes me. It's a great lesson in surrender. It's like I have one more month here, and then I'm not sure after that. It's a good place to be.
Yeah. 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 Well,
I have nested here though. I mean, I have spent 5 years in the same little town, so it's been the longest I've been still and really stayed in one place my whole life, essentially, aside from, the house I grew up in. But, yeah, I think it's when you feel the nudge, sometimes it's there for a reason, and listening even if you don't know why or where it's gonna take you is important.
trust your intuition, even if it seems like it's not logical or something. Trust
Mhm.
it. Go for it. Awesome. For anybody that is inspired by you now, how can we get in touch with you and website, courses, books, Instagrams, all those things?
Yeah, well, we didn't really talk too much about the career
Right?
stuff here, which was really nice to focus
Yeah.
on adventures and travel, some of my favorite topics. But I do have a natural wellness, holistic wellness clinic, and I do specialize in working with people who have been dealing with debilitating chronic conditions. And within that, I've written 5 different books, and most of them are on the platforms like Google and Amazon and stuff like that. I do have a new book I'm working on about travel in Peru and adventures and intuition, so that'll be a fun new, thing that we can maybe add to the show notes after the
Yes.
fact.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'll pre-order one.
But the other ones are more specific to conditions like mast cell activation syndrome, POTS, HEDS, mold illness, even some of the like Lyme and some of those other chronic labels. I'm very passionate about helping show people that they can reverse those things and really figure out what's upstream and how to handle those without going down the functional medicine rabbit holes that a lot of people do. And so some of my latest offerings focus on how to break free from functional medicine and find a different way to heal. So through that, I have several courses that are out there. My clinic is called Origin Wellness, and you can find it at Origin Wellness Clinic on Instagram. And I'll send you links to the website as well, which is originwellnesscolorado.com. And then I also have a fun author page, Break Free from Chronic Illness, where I'm a little more
Oh,
consistent with posting as well on Instagram.
that's exciting. Wait, I would like to pre-order your book now. That sounds amazing. And to combine the intuitive part too, that's the part that excites me.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't think I can tell that story of my time in Peru without bringing that in. It's goes hand in hand for sure.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Remember to like and subscribe and all that fun stuff, friends. And you need to follow Amber as well. And we're eagerly anticipating her new book. Thank you so much, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. It's been really fun to reminisce and all this.